everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ifeoluwa and I'm happy that you're here today. Basically, today I'm going to be starting the series Flutter mobile development series, where I'll be taking us on how to become a mobile developer using the Flutter framework, and we're going to get started in a bit. In case you've probably watched some of my other videos talking about becoming a developer, how to get into tech, it is important that you see some of the things I've highlighted in the past. You can just follow the link in the description below so that you won't get lost in between here. Although I'm still going to take some installation setups here, but I've actually done that in previous video. You might just want to check that out. You can just check the link in the description and then follow through. Okay, so basically, for this series, we're going to be solely focusing on mobile development using the Flutter framework. And what is Flutter itself? So Flutter is an open source framework by Google for building, of course, beautiful natively compiled and multi-platform application with a single code base. So what that simply means is that, of course, the beautiful, we all understand what beautiful is. Nice UI design. You can see the screenshot in the slide. But when it says natively compiled, actually, for mobile development, we actually have core native languages in mobile development. It means that for apps on Android, they are actually natively developed with either using Android Studio, Java, or Kotlin. And for iOS devices, we actually develop either using Swift UI or I think Storyboard as well. So if that's an S code. So if you want to develop native apps, you have to use either of those ones. I mean, in the past, but right now, Flutter is making that easy by ensuring that whatever we're building using the Flutter framework, Flutter is from that is another language. So using the Flutter framework is going to be compiled into a native app, means that all features and functions of what you would build using either Android Studio or Xcode would actually perform fine here using Flutter. Also, when it says multi-platform means, just like I've explained, that since we now have the bridge of helping us compile our codes natively, that Flutter will also help us ensure that the app can run on both iOS and then on Android. And in fact, now it even has a larger scope where Flutter apps can run even on web and run as well as on Windows and Mac devices. Means that you can actually build apps for Mac computers, that is Mac OS computers or Windows computers. So with Flutter, but we're not going to be delving into so much with that. Of course, the same code base definitely, but we're not going to be delving so much into the Windows or the Mac OS frameworks thing. But we're just going to focus basically on the mobile end, which is iOS and then Android. Yes, two important websites to note here. I like to make reference to them because this website would help you whilst you're working, even when you get into bigger projects and the likes. Of course, one you cannot do without is the pub.dev. Pub.dev is where you see all packages by Flutter, for Flutter rather. All packages for Flutter, like you can see here, you see Google Fonts and the likes, Flutter, Firebase messaging. Of course, please don't get confused with everything here. We would get into them one after the other as need calls for it. You see loading files, Flutter SVG, and all those things, scalable vector graphics, that's what SVG is. So we'll get into that one after the other. And then Flutter Gems. So what happens here? Flutter Gems is not pub.dev, but actually helps you know what is on pub.dev. So what I've explained here is that if you're unsure about the package or what package to use, Flutter Gems provide categorization of all packages based on their features. Yeah, take for instance, you're trying to do a slider, or you're trying to make a authentication or something, and you need a package. Let me explain what a package is. A package is like is like a tool or a compilation of code that someone had, like it's open source. Generally Flutter is open source, so probably someone had developed something in the past with maybe a project he or she has built, and then feels that, oh, you know what, this thing is going to be good for the community of developers. And then in order for you not to be reinventing the wheel every time you are trying to build such things, then such things or such codes are then made into package. Like for myself, I have a package that I built sometimes this year, which is for two-factor authentication. So if you go to pub.dev and search for Flutter 2FA, as long as it is approved, you can also make your package in future. Flutter 2FA, you can find this. This is by myself. This is Flutter 2FA package by myself here. And then of course it's also registered here if you check for Flutter 2FA. Okay, let me just make what Flutter Gems does now. So on Flutter Gems now, I need my package is actually for authentication and security. So I'll just go to I don't know where to find it, but I just know I want to do authentication with two-factor. So I can just come on Flutter Gem and then just look for authentication provider, or this, I think it should be in this category. Let's see, Flutter 2FA, let's find it. Let me just run a search. 2FA, okay, I don't think it's in this category. I'm just going to find the actual category. I can't remember exactly which one it is. Or probably it's just loading. I think it should be in that same category. Probably it's just loading. Okay, 2FA. Let me just search for 2FA. Yeah, so I found it. Yeah, so you can see Flutter 2FA. You can see here Flutter package to enable two-factor authentication on your app. So what happens with this is that anytime you want to build something and then you don't want to go through the rigors, except if you want probably customize. Of course, some of these are actually customizable. So you can just find your package or any of the package that has been built before and then implement it in your code. We're going to see how to do that in a short while. All right, so those are quite important websites to take note of. Also, remember in this series or in this my channel generally, my aim is to help anyone and everyone become a tech developer or a programmer at the speed of 4 times faster, easier, and I mean making your learning also simpler, because it's crazy out there generally. Okay, so today's goal first is to kickstart your first mobile app project. And the project we're going to be looking at generally through the duration of this course within the next 8 or 10 series is I found this particular app. We're going to look at how to use Adobe XD or Figma as well. So I found this particular one on Figma, this particular UI. So I was just looking for something that we could learn with. So I found this particular UI by Task Management and To-Do List by Nasayu. Thank you, Nasayu, for that. So I found this, and then I feel that, okay, probably this would help us understand a few things about Flutter. And then this, and of course, everyone knows that we do tasks or to-do lists for learning. So of course, it's different from Hello World, and I see that this is more complex. So we would probably get into so many parts of Flutter using this particular UI. All right, so let's get going. Remember, I said in my previous video, please, if you haven't seen that, you could just check that, and I'm going to look at it again as well. For Flutter to work on your computer, or for you to be able to work with Flutter, you need some basic things. So if you go to flutter.dev and say, okay, get started, when you click on get started, it's going to give you an idea of how to set it up. And of course, I might not do setup one after the other here, because on my computer I already have Flutter set up, but I'm just going to guide us through it. So what happens here right now is, for you to be able to run Flutter, you need some specific installations to be done and set up. So for instance, if you're using a Windows computer, when you get on get started on Flutter website, what you need to do is to select Windows, and they need to tell you the necessary steps for you to follow. Of course, there are system requirements. This is very important as well, because without this, your computer matching these requirements, Flutter might not be able to run appropriately. So, but once you are able to confirm that your computer is Windows 10 or later, and then a 64-bit system, then you have at least a free space of about 1.64 gig. This does not include this space for the ID, but free space for some of the backend processes to run. And then Flutter depends on this tool on your environment, Windows PowerShell, and then Git for Windows. Of course, you're going to just install all this. So now the necessary thing for you to do is the reason why you're going to need Git is because you're going to install Flutter via Git on Windows actually. So you could just set up Git when you, let me just launch this. Oh, so come down to this. Okay, so for Windows, you could just download for 64-bit, or yeah, you need 64-bit actually. So you could just download Git for 64-bit. I'm actually using a Mac, so I can't demo any of this. So you download this. After downloading this and completing the process, it always have documentation. Just follow documentation, is very easy. So once you've downloaded that, next thing to do is then to download this file, download this Windows Flutter window file. After downloading the window file, you are supposed to extract the zip file and place it in a contained Flutter. So what happens at this point is, take for instance, you have a computer, a Windows computer. A folder might not actually look like this though, but in your computer folder file, you can have something like this, and then I'm just going to look for, yeah, so look at mine. This is Flutter. So you can just extract this download, you extract it into your like local disk or something and name it as Flutter. So when you extract it, it becomes part of your computer files or programs. And then it says, just says, if you don't want to install a fixed version, of course you can. These are just basic advanced one. And then next thing to do is, after extracting this in your local disk, the next thing to do is to update your path. What happens with path, or what does path do? So with Flutter, you're supposed to be running a number of things via the command line, like either in your VS Code or in your computer command line itself or terminal. You're supposed to be running some things via command line. So for that to happen, you have to set your path. Path is like you are linking the Flutter keywords to the directory of the file. That's what it just means. You get, you are linking the directory of the file or those files to a keyword. So when you now enter the keyword will then do what it's supposed to do via the folders. So take for instance, when I go to my own terminal, I'm just looking for something here. So, and I do Flutter V. When I type Flutter V, that means I'm asking for Flutter version -V. That's the Flutter version. So it tells me what Flutter version I have. So in a case where you have not set up your path, this will not work. So you need to set up your path for this to begin to work. And once that works, you do this. This does the necessary things for you. But I mean, the job can be easier when you, okay, take for instance, when you run Flutter Doctor, it then tells you some of the tools available. So at the point where, after setting your path, just follow this directory, copy the parts of your folder. You don't forget the folder where it is this. So you can just copy, like in MacBook, I can just do this. And I know you can actually do something like that in Windows. So what you can do is just CD, or okay, you're not copying this time. I can just drag this folder, right? I think you can do same on Windows as well. And then, so it tells you the directory of the folder. So if I'm supposed to perform this function now, I can just do this, says, okay, Flutter, part to Flutter, and then being whatever. Just fill in the necessary details, and then you'll be able to run this. It's not difficult. Just follow this process. Set this to part and the likes. If you are finding it difficult, one thing you can do, trust me, is go to Stack Overflow. I've mentioned this in my previous video too. And then you can say set Flutter path in Windows, or Windows rather. So you will find more direct guide. Set Flutter paths. I'm just going to find one that can help you. I'm just trying to find. Okay, let's just let's just put this on Google directly instead. Okay, so setting up Flutter paths. You can find several of them and the likes like that. So I don't want balls, but if you actually follow this particular guide, if once you follow this particular guide, you should be able to get that done, the setting Flutter to part. And once that is done, then you run Flutter Doctor. This would help you to get started easily. Alright, so Flutter Doctor actually tells you what you have installed and what is missing on your computer. So take for instance, let me just run this Flutter Doctor. So you're going to see that I have Xcode, Android Studio, and the likes already on my computer. So it's telling me my Flutter type or Flutter version, and then it's going to give me other information as well. Checking Android license. Oh, it's taking a while. Of course, we can come back to, okay, I think it fetched it. So it told me I have Xcode, I have Chrome, I have VS Code, I have all those things, everything in place. All right, so that's for that. Let's move on to the next thing. So next, for this to happen, when you run, for you now, if you're just setting up, when you run this, you would actually have some of this missing. So it is required at least you should have Android Studio. So for this to happen, next is to install Android Studio. Go to, just click on the links generally. So once you click on the link, after downloading this, so of course this is the latest version, please check your specific system requirement as well. So once you're able to get that, then install this file, right? The file that it will be down that will be downloaded. So once you install the file and you launch your Android Studio, this is what you should have. But something is going to be different. When you launch your Android Studio at first, this is on Mac, so the UI, the interface might be different though, but it's quite similar. This is on Mac, this is Android Studio. When you run it the first time, you might not have this new Flutter project, right? So the next thing to do is to go to plugins, and then search for Flutter. Of course, you can see Flutter is already showing on my own here. So you can just search for Flutter and then install. So once you install Flutter, right, what happens with this is when you install Flutter on your Android Studio, it would help you set up Flutter via Android Studio. Means that at any point when you want to start a project, you don't need to use command line. You can just launch your Android Studio and then start your Flutter project, right? So once you install this, restart your Android Studio, and then you would have this option come up. I think that directory should also be here. Set up your Android device. So at that point, once you are done, yes, one other thing is that you need to also connect your emulator. That's the essence for the Android Studio, in fact. So to set up the Android emulator, you have to go to your Android device manager. So customize. Let's just go to here. So you go to virtual device manager. Okay, VTM here. So what happens here is, of course, you need to have a very large space for this. So you can create a virtual device. I seldom use this because I actually have an Android device and an iOS device that I use for testing. So what you can do, right, is, because this actually takes a lot of space on your device, on your computer, but of course it's good to have it. You can actually just take that away, and then the thing to do is, if you have an Android phone, just bring your Android phone, link it up. How do you link your Android phone? You go to settings on your Android phone. This is outside Flutter. You go to settings on your Android phone. For you to be able to use your Android phone as a virtual device or an emulator, what you're going to now do is you have to make your phone accept debugging. Like you have to enable USB debugging on your phone. I think I'll just do a video probably later on that. Once you get to your settings, then you go to build number, Yes, you go to build number of your Android phone and then you click it 7 times. Yes, if you click it the first time, you won't see anything. So until the fifth time, after the fifth time, then it will tell you that you have like 3 steps or 3 more taps to go to get to enable debug mode. So you can just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it will enable debug mode and then you can allow. So once you connect your device, automatically your computer will begin to recognize your Android phone as a device. That's just a plus. So once you have that, when you now run Flutter Doctor, then you should be able to see that your devices are connected as well. So that's that for the setup. Please, it is very important that you follow this. And then likewise, if you're using Mac, just follow the same process. Almost similar, you just download the Flutter file, the same add to part, and then do the normal things. Like it's quite easy to come by. Don't forget, for you to set up Git as well, you need to have a GitHub account. Don't forget, you need to ensure that you get your GitHub account. Don't, so that's just basically everything for setup. And after that, then your Flutter is ready to run. But on the interim, I mentioned before that for some of us who do not have a computer right now, or maybe your computer system requirement or the required system requirement does not match your computer configuration. Easy, just get Chrome browser. On your Chrome browser, just go to zap.run. So what happens with zap.run is Zap is like an online compiler for Flutter. It helps you to build Flutter apps directly from your browser. So you don't need to have all those setups, or in case you are having issues with those setups, maybe you want to quickly get to what I'm going to be dealing with or what I'm going to be teaching or exposing us to. You can just run everything via Zap. But so I'll just also share the link to zap.run so that you can, do this as well. So after you have done that, okay, on VS Code, you have to get extensions too. On VS Code, you set up your extensions for some of these to also run. So take for instance Flutter. It's already installed on my own device as well. So if it wasn't installed, you'll see this option here. Just click on the button and then you have it installed on your device. So what happens with Flutter installation here is it enables functions like we're going to be talking about alt reload, restart, and the likes, and then you can have the command line option as well, where you can just do start a new Flutter project. So let me start over. If I do command or shift P, and then I just do Flutter, you can see Flutter new project, Flutter upgrade, and the like. So if I click on new project, it automatically generates a new project for me. So I'm going to start a new project now. I'm going to use this, or if you like, you can as well use your Android Studio. So I'm just going to do a new project here. So what kind of project am I building? Just a normal project, plain one. So I'm going to have empty. I don't like one with descriptive comments. It comes to a lot of tutorial. Okay, for the purpose of tutorial, I'm going to use this. So generate new Flutter app. So it's going to bring up command line. It's asking me which folder do I want to set it up. So I'm going to say, okay, let's just put it on desktop. So new folder, let's do session 1. So new folder, session 1. So it's going to create project. What's the project name? Task manager. Task manager. So it's going to create the app for me right here without leaving the screen. Everything is going to be created. Yeah, so that's almost set up. Viola. So my app is set up. So you can see all the parts and folders that make up a Flutter project. So you see the files, you see the folders, Android folder, the iOS folder, the Linux folder, the macOS folder, and the web folder, right? So I'll just explain what this does. Of course, this contains all the native Android setups. This for native iOS setups. This is the library. This is where all your project file would be. All your project file, that is all your screens and the likes, is where you put them. And Linux, of course, Linux native part, macOS native part. Of course, you don't actually have to have all these. In case you're probably in future creating your project, you can just specify that you want just Android and iOS alone. Do you get, without having to have generate file? But this test is for test folders. I mean, for tests that we're going to be writing for our apps. And then also you have web, and then you have Windows. They are all just native for those ones. And then yes, most important thing here is pub spec, right? So for pub spec, we're going to have this. So what happens with a YML file? YML is YML, YML file. So in pub spec, this is where we define some information about our project, as well as this is the link through, or the channel through which we install packages. So you can see it says the name of the project, we give it task manager, and then description, you can change this to a task manager to learn mobile development, right? A task manager to learn mobile development. Then you can see version. This version is actually important because when you start deploying your apps to Play Store and the likes, these IDs are what differentiates version 1 from version 2 to version 3. So when you need to make a change at any time, or when you need to make an upgrade, you know which version you last upgraded and the new version you'll be adding. Then SDK specific is software development kit, means that for your Flutter app, right, it's the range of SDK of Flutter anywhere where it is installed would be between this version and this version maximum. So it will run for, but any version of Flutter lower than this 2.19, which is the current one I have, would not be able to run my project, right? So next is for dependencies, right? Dependencies like things that we need to use in this project. So you can see, of course, the SDK is Flutter itself, and then you can see Cupertino icons. These ones are default. So here under this, we can then do some other ones, like take for instance, I want to install my own package. Now I'll just do Flutter 2FA. Of course, now it is, because I have internet, it can also work with internet, so it's fetching some of the available packages online. I can just do Flutter 2FA. You can see, then it might pick the latest version. Can you see? So of course you need to know the versions of, but because VS Code already has a way of fetching those from pub.dev, that's why I have that option. So it's fetching that. So of course I don't want to install this though. We might actually install some of these things later. I don't want to get us too much of that. So for dev dependencies, these ones are actually packages as well that you need, but you are not exposing to the user. You don't want to export it as part of the app when you are done. You just want to use it within development phase. So you can just put those ones here, like maybe Flutter links, test packages, and the likes. So you can just put them here. Alright, so use material designs. Ones are just based on features. So what happens here right now is under this packages as well, or under this folder definitions, in our apps, when we need to access some things like assets, we define the folders where assets are. So take for instance, I'm going to define folder for my assets. So when I go to my library, I told you library is where all the files for the app would be. So if I'm going to define this directory here, I'm going to create a folder and name and call it, okay, not here, I'm not going to define here. Assets will also be outside the library, so I'm going to define a new folder assets, right? So under assets, I can define some other parts, which is new file or new folder, images, right? Under assets, I can still define another folder, fonts, right? So these two are important in our project setup. So these two, I can use them. So I'm just going to come here and say assets images, right? This is for images. For fonts, I'm going to define that here. So assets images. So if I save any image within this file, because I have put this directory, I can access that image anywhere within my app. If I create another folder within this place, take for instance, and I'll say new folder, and I call the new folder icons. Once I have created a new folder, I need to also specify that. So I need to do this, right? Of course, we'll get to nitty-gritty of this as well. Icons. Do you get? So all images under this folder will be displayed, as well as all images under this place. So you don't have to specify the images one after the other. Okay, so if you look at my bottom right, every time I save this file, something is happening. That is because I have installed Flutter package or Flutter extension on my VS Code. So every time I save this pub.specs file, take for instance, if I save now, it will run a pub.get, right? So once you run a pub.get, that means it's trying to update my app and fetch all necessary toolings. Okay, so let's even see what we have at the moment. Those are just for setup sake, and then the folder setup. Alright, so this is just my main dot. That file is the entry point for Flutter apps. So it is where where the apps will run from. Of course, we can make changes to it, but everything still has to, like, the first loader has to come from this page. So now next thing to do is we have to run this app. So for me to run this app, I can just do run here without debugging. I'm not debugging right now. So automatically, because I already have my device selected here, right, it's not going to work because this is actually connected to another device that will not run. So I can stop that. You can see it already even told me that. So what can happen is I'll then select my device type. So you can see, because we have all those features, I can select Chrome, iPhone, macOS. So this is my iPhone 13, which I have set up as my simulator. So once I select this, then I'm able to run. So you can just select once you are on VS Code, you'll be able to do this once your phone is connected as well. Select my iPhone 13, and then let me just bring that out here. So this is my emulator. Right, so once I decide to run the app now, then I would have the app will start running here. So it's launching the app now. So while the app is launching, I can just start all those installations, or you have shortage of disk space. So you can just go to ZAPP.run and then get started. You can create an account so that you can save your projects. Do you understand? So just click a new Flutter project. Once you click a new Flutter project, everything will be set up. One thing I also want you to know is, for this sample project, which is here, I've talked about that. You have, I think this is maybe like a landing screen. Then you have, this is the landing home screen. I think this is tax screen. This is a tax screen as well. This is a project screen. So we'll just put everything together. We'll do about 4 to 5 of these screens. We can take them one after the other. So let's even see how this works. How many assets are here? Okay, this is acting as an image too. Okay, so this is the actual design. Okay, so this is a combination of several images. But in order not to do so much, what you can do is, if you have Figma file, I'm going to also share the source of this file, or the folder or location of this file. So what you can do is just, I'm going to just put them. So I don't have to take those images one after the other. So I'm just going to group them. I'm just going to group this. So once I group them, then I can make them available for export. I'll also share them as I'll compile the folders and then share them as a resource. So I can just export this file. I'm actually exporting them as a group. I don't want them to be a group. I want them to just be one image. Preview. Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to go to desktop. So I'm going to save that image in session 1. I think I named this session 1. So I'm going to save it in session 1 folder. Yeah, task manager, assets, images. So I'm just going to still say welcome image. So that's, I've saved this image now. I'm going to share them also as we go. Okay, it says file variants for asset image icon. Sorry. File the variant found for assets image icon. Something is missing. So I'm just going to check for that. I'm not sure why that error is happening though. Getting before that. So I'm just going to run this again. I'm just going to run this again. I hope it runs now. Not sure what that error was. So you can find the variants. So this is our file already, or that our image already. Basically, I'll just to cap this session, we're just going to put this image and on the welcome page, and then we can get to other parts in next set of videos. It's taking a while. I'm sure that's because I'm actually running ZAPP. This page actually, this is actually going to slow my system as well. So I'll just close that for now. That's one of the things. This takes some. These are all comments, so I mean I can just remove them. I just wanted it for explanation on the spec file, so I'm just going to remove them now while we're waiting for our app to build. Shouldn't take so long though. Okay, so I mean it's fun, and it's going to be fun all the way. Yeah, so our app has installed and it's going to launch. Yeah. Not sure what happened the first time though, but let's just continue. So this is just going to launch the sample app. Yeah. So the sample app is an app that it's a counter app actually, just to show you how state works. So it just does this, but we really do not need this now, as I want us to get to work very fast. So I'm just going to remove all those parts. Yes, all those parts. Of course, I'm not going to run too many things today. I'll just remove all these parts. I don't need the floating button for now. We'll learn about all this later. Okay, 1 second. Okay, Flutter demo. So tax manager. That's the name of our app. I don't need the title, so actually need to give a title, and that's because title has been specified here. So I'll remove this. Page title. Okay, final title. I'll remove that. Yeah, it's gonna be removed. I don't need the app bar as well. Scaffold body. Add const. Okay. So task manager. Yeah. So my app will be blank now. Oh. Yeah, so my app is blank now. So you can see this debug file showing at the top. So what happens is there's something we call debug check. So I'm just going to remove it. Material and debug check banner. Just turn it off. False. So what I just want us to close with this. I'm just going to close this session with this particular screen. So of course, I don't install the font yet, but I'm just going to close this session. So I'm going to put, for that said, I'm going to do a child. So child, every widget has a child. I'm going to explain that in full because today was just all about getting your Flutter app to work. So you have created your first project now. Let's just do something simple with this landing page so that we know that's where we're headed. So for child, center, I'm centering the child. I want it to be center of my screen. So I'm just going to put that, and then I'm going to do a column. I'm doing a column because we have axis around a screen. So we have the horizontal and we have the vertical axis. And then to have children within the horizontal axis, you have to set up a column. To have children within the to have children within the vertical axis, you set up a column. To have children within the horizontal axis, you set up a row. So we have children. So I'm going to have to remove the const because that's not going to follow with this. So I'm going to add image dot asset. So I'm going to do assets slash images slash, what's the name of that thing? Welcome.png. Let's see what it looks like. Add chart, so you can see that's coming up. So the reason why this is happening right now is because I put a column, and in column it won't listen to the center again because I've specified another thing. So I have to now do a column center itself, which is now main axis. This is main axis. This is going to be cross axis. And then for a row, this is going to be main axis, this is going to be cross axis. So let's do main axis alignment dot center. So it will bring it to the center exactly. So that's that. So next thing to do is to put this text in between. So of course the font might not match right now. I'm going to get the font once we. So I'm going to do a sized height of like. It's good to actually inspect your design. So one thing I can just do is between these two, I can just check and say what's the height between these two. 104. So I can just do 100 in between. So this is asking for a const. Next is to now put the text. So this is a text widget. So I'll just paste the text, tax management and to-do list. Then I'll do style. style is text style. We'll get to all this use in full details. I just want to set up that first screen. So const. The next thing to do is what should be the font size? Let's check. Inspect. 24. So font size 24. Font weight bold. Font weight dot bold. So we should have this. Yeah. So that's what we're going to do list. Looks a bit smaller. Maybe we should do 30. Yeah. So what we do next is, this is small or is set in between. So what we're going to do is we're going to reduce the width of that. Don't worry, don't get confused right now. I'm going to be putting some. So I'm going to move this from here now because it's no longer the parent. So I'm going to do width of this particular, and then I'm going to set it to width of the media query. Media query dot size. So I'm using this to get the size of the device. So I'm doing width. Then I'm going to say just about 60% of the screen. What's happening here? Media query. Just a moment with. Trying to just get what's happening here. Media query. Oh, sorry, it's no longer a constant. Sorry, I was wondering what's happening. Yeah. So I think that should work now. Okay, it's too small. So let's give it a 7. Yeah, I think that's it. And then our text should align center. Text align the center. So you have this, and then next is let's see what we can do. Let's just put this. So you can just copy your text. I'm using Figma, so you can just copy your text and paste from Figma as well. So escape. I'm not using escape sequences here. I'm doing the proper thing. Escape sequences are when you are writing a code and then you're just using something like n to break the code so that it will go down. But if you use this proper thing of setting the width of the device as the one to cut as the factor to determine the width of this text, then that will really help you. So I think this should be normal. When it's normal, you don't need to actually do this, but I mean, I think this size should be, it's fine like this, right? Let's do 18. Yeah, I think that's it. So we don't have to do 100. Let's do some 20. Yeah. So the next is a button. So we have an elevated button. So for a button, we have, let me just put this as well. I hope this helps you learn though, for at least for setup sake. Elevated button on pressed. I'm going to explain all this action later, but I just want us to be able to do elevated button text. let's stop. Okay, so what's happening here is I need an escape sequence slash. Yeah. Can you see my button coming up? So of course I'm going to do some button styling. Button styling sometime later. Style, button style. With color, background color. I'm just going to look for what color this is. RGB. These colors are in RGB, so it's good to colors dots. I'm just going to look for purple for now. I don't want to take time on setting that. So what does this one says const? Although some of this would actually change as time goes. Material color, yeah, can set material color to this. So I have to set as a material color. So I'm using the intelligence of this device. So just going to take some of this out. Why is this underlined? Okay, so I'm just going to stop it here for today. I'm just going to stop it here, and then basically I'm able to get this done. I think this has to still come down a bit though, and then we have some color effects in the background, and we'll get to all of that shortly. But for now, I hope that you're able to get this done. So I'm just going to do something. So I'm going to just lift one of my scripts here and say for colors. Actually, you can see this is a large script. So let's just get the button out. Primary button. Where's it? So I just want to pick this styling anyways, because I don't want to take too much time. Yeah, and then I think this general anyway. So I just want to leave that though, so that I won't have to be wasting time on that. Time. Yeah. So I don't know what these colors do. So I'm just doing colors to purple. I'll tell us how to set up all these constants later. Is that color? I think it's some bluish purple asset or something. Let's see if purple 900 will work. It won't take this though. It won't take that. Okay, we'll get to the actual color later, and then I'll set up that. The width. So I'm just going to put it inside the size box, and then like this. Insert the width. Design. Yeah, and then the height. The height should be about 52 px. So I just do 52. Oh, it looks like it's actually bigger than that. So let's do 9. Yeah, so let's give some space in between. 1 to 50. Yeah, It's not really the color. Looks like a blue though. No, it's a purple. Okay, let me just do it once and for all. Let me just bring the colors itself. So for the colors, that's what we use. You just go to this RGB stuff. So I'm going to pick one of these and then bring it down. So what happens here is it's just waiting for me to set the color itself. So the color is 9551 225. So 9551 225. That's the percentage of red, green, orange, and the like. So I'll have to remove this. Yeah, so it has taken that color. So next to do is I'm going to set the border radius. Of course, this design actually looks like a custom button, but we're still going to get to that later. So I'm going to just do a shape border radius for you. So I'm just lifting this in order to save time. So I'm just going to take my border radius, custom, where's the radius? Radius. Yeah, so just going to do this. Sorry. So I'm just going to do this. Styling a button is a bit tricky. So I'm just going to do this. So the border radius, I don't think it has any right here because it looks like it's actually a so let's just do a 20. Let's see what it looks like. Sorry. No, that's too much. The 12 will be fine here. So for now, let's increase this font size, time, text time. Font size. Let's do 22. Okay, so for now, let's just end with that. I believe that by the end of this session, you should also have this screen, and you should be able to have something like this. We would continue from here in the next class or next session on my next video, and I hope you're able to learn and enjoy one thing. Like I said, we were going to get our hands dirty, so I hope you like this video, share and subscribe. So this is the first part. This is how far we have gone today, and in other videos we'll then continue to bring the font type, would get these screens up, do this bit of color faders at the background, and then like that. I hope you at least you already have the first screen and you're already on the road to becoming a very proficient mobile developer. I hope you enjoy the video. Please like, share and subscribe. Thank you and see you later. Bye.